Interesting poll out today from Freshwater Strategy on The Voice. Look at the support for it. Labor's plan for a kind of Aboriginal-only parliament. It sounded like a great idea at first to a lot of Australians. Around 80% of people polled last year said yes. But as the debate's gone on, more and more get cold feet. Support now less than 60%. It's still enough for The Voice to get up at the referendum later this year, but the trajectory is down and the Liberals have only just agreed to fight. So we'll see how that goes. Joining me is Rowan Dean, editor of The Spectator Australia and host of Outsiders and Sky News every Sunday at 9 a.m. Rowan, what do you think is changing people's minds?
Well, Andrew, sorry, you just caught me mid-dinner. I've just been eating with my fingers. I don't know what your problem with Ron DeSantis and Donald Trump is. Anyway, sorry, what was the question? Oh, yeah. OK, The Voice. Yes, what is clearly happening, what fantastic news we saw last week or today, with Peter Dutton coming out so strongly against The Voice, saying no to The Voice. And now, we've got Jacinta Price. Over a year ago, I was saying all I want to see is Peter Dutton and Jacinta Price standing side by side. I said it at the CPAC conference, said it on Outsiders, said it on this show. Please, can we, Australia, just see Peter Dutton and Jacinta Price standing side by side, talking about the real problems in Indigenous Australian remote communities instead of all this rubbish about The Voice. And thank God we're seeing it now. And this does spell, I reckon, the end of The Voice. I'm very optimistic. I think this is going to be the making of Peter Dutton, and I think this is going to take him to the lodge. And I think we're going to see Anthony Albanese exposed for a virtue signalling, identity politics fraud before the end of the year. Jacinta Price was a terrific interview.
I mean, your optimism, like I went to your Spectator party, which is brilliant on the weekend, and I was struck by how many people like you were optimistic. I've been quite pessimistic because of the indoctrination and all that. But I wonder, Rowan, whether Independent Senator Lydia Thorpe is also going to be a secret weapon against The Voice, not because she's against it, but though she is. But she wants more than a voice. She wants a treaty, sovereignty. But she was filmed leaving a Melbourne strip club and abusing patrons outside, saying they had small penises, using foul language, telling people, well, you white men stole, this is my land. Photographing one of them, said he was marked. So that sounded like a threat. What amazes me, though, Rowan, because it may be because it was so damaging, right? I couldn't find any report on that on the ABC News. I went to the ABC search site, anywhere. Couldn't find a single mention. Might have been one somewhere. I couldn't find it. Why would that be?
Well, because the ABC play to a narrative, and anything that fits the narrative, they'll go along with. Anything that's against the narrative, they just bury, which is the worst thing. We're supposed to have, the ABC is supposed to represent all Australians. It doesn't. It represents the Labor Party. Even Twitter are now acknowledging that and putting on there that this is a government-funded organisation, so just ignore it like you would Pravda or any other government-funded organisation or mouthpiece. What's fascinating about Lydia Thorpe, of course, I was trying to work out whether the guy was marked because he had a small penis or he was marked because he was on stolen land. Maybe both. Who knows? But the great thing about Lydia Thorpe is that she exposes there's two great things about her. One, she exposes, there's no filter, she exposes exactly what the agenda of The Voice is. And The Voice is the kind of touchy-feely way in to get all the kind of white guilt Australians, good-natured, well-meaning Australians around the nation to feel, this is an emotional issue. Yes, giving a voice is a nice thing to do. But the real hard agenda is the one that Lydia Thorpe keeps talking about, which is a treaty, which means that we throw out 200 years of a legal system and we say, OK, the Crown no longer owns the land. You property owners don't own your own land. It's actually Indigenous land and you now got to pay rent. Whatever it is, that's what a treaty involves. Truth-telling involves basically not truth-telling. This is the hardcore agenda that Lydia Thorpe is proposing. The second thing which every Australian, and I'm glad she does expose it, the second thing which every Australian can now ask themselves, Lydia Thorpe was deemed by the Greens, by Adam Bandt, to be good enough to represent the Greens party. She stood, she won election, and she's up there in the Greens party. Now imagine, we know that nobody's going to be elected to The Voice. There's no details of how people will arrive at The Voice, but it seems to be election is not on the cards. We also know that there's probably no cut-off point. There's no cut-off point. So someone like Lydia Thorpe could easily be appointed to The Voice, could easily be appointed to The Voice for life, and then 5 years later we find them outside nightclubs doing this and carrying on and being... how on earth can Australia in 2023 propose having a key part of our government run by appointed people for life who we know nothing about, who are hardcore leftists with agendas that we know nothing about? Lydia Thorpe proves the very point why we should not have The Voice, both because of the agenda and both because of the individuals. We don't know what we will get. That's why we have a democracy. Let's stick with what we've got.
Well, the Thorpe clan controls some of the seats on the Victoria's version of The Voice, the First People's Assembly. So that's a little warning. But I've got to go back to the ABC. How dare they bury this story? It has been everywhere. They have refused to report it, and we know why. If that had been a white man abusing people out there, a liberal, you wouldn't have heard the end of it. Rowan Dean, thank you so much for your time.